Whether you're a founder just starting out, a seasoned business owner looking to expand, or simply interested in learning about the world of business, this podcast is for you. My name is Mario Schäfer, CEO at OneIV. In each episode, we will explore topics related to the creation, growth, and globalization of businesses, from ideation and funding to marketing and operations. Our guests will share their insights, experiences, and lessons learned along the way. Join us as we dive into the world of entrepreneurship and business on this podcast. Please follow us on YouTube. Coming again. To our new episode of Business Compact. I'm quite happy to be with Michélle and Vincent today. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Mario. My name is Michélle Booysen. I am a co-founder of the Tank NXT, and we have offices based in South Africa and in the Netherlands. And for the last 20 odd years, we have been focusing on process and project management as the tools to make change stick in businesses.
And I'm Vincent Labuschagne. I don't think I need to add to what Michélle has said. We, as she said, make change stick through the use of process that often involves technology and helping business operations to become more efficient. And that's my area of expertise. I've, over the years, built a number of businesses and their infrastructures and developed you can never say that you're an expert, but I've developed experience in helping businesses, operations, and technology work together more seamlessly.
We're here today with a very interesting topic, and I would already come with the first question. How does the transition from Web 2 to Web 3 and 4 impact business models, and how can companies adapt to these changes?
So my experience in this landscape is that we're going to experience a lot of decentralization. So we were specifically asking, how does it impact business models? The traditional business model is centralized. We have an office that we go to, and we have servers centrally hosted. When we contribute knowledge and we work together, that all gets housed and owned by the company that we work for. And what I expect to see when I now say decentralized is that over time, and certainly COVID, the pandemic has accelerated it, although we see some drawback happening now, going back to our old way of operating. But I do still expect that as we move into Web 3 and 4, this decentralized trend will start to take hold, where we see people coming into a business, contributing, co-owning what they've contributed, and then leaving the business. And business models will need to adapt to that, being able to use co-owned information, not to be the repository of knowledge, but to tap into the knowledge of the resources, the people that it becomes connected with over time. So decentralization, I think, is going to be the biggest impact on business models.
If I could add to that, Vincent, people ask, what is the difference between Web 1, 2, 3, and 4? So essentially, Web 1 is when we started out with the internet, and you will recall how excited we were all to basically put our company details on the internet in a brochure format. It was static, and you went and read, got telephone numbers, names, and email addresses, and you saw what a business did. Web 2 then took that quite significantly forward by making interactive ways of working on the internet. So you could then say, fill in details, you could scroll, you could select, and so forth. Both of those elements are in a structured state. So in other words, they were protocols for Web 1 and 2. And Web 1 specifically was the protocol. Web 2 came and added all sorts of applications on top of that protocol. Where Web 3 is moving to, as you quite rightly said, is decentralizing. So typically, if you have a BV or an LLC or any type of a business structure at the moment with founders and shareholders, etc., that could then be transitioning into a loosely held interest group where people come and bring their knowledge, their information, and as you quite rightly said, can leave again. So I had the pleasure recently of meeting with a business based in Hong Kong who is quite far advanced in creating or providing the opportunity for businesses to move into that decentralized space through a DAO that was created. And that basically means you bring your IP or intellectual property and you position it within the DAO, and others can come and use that intellectual property to build something on top of that baseline property that you have. And eventually you could license that out to quite a wide audience as the DAO grows. So I'm really excited about the opportunities in this. And that's just one example, just simply looking at the technologies that one now adds is through blockchain, through the massive move towards AI, all of the technology that's going to become available to businesses to move to a Web3 space.
What are the key technologies that businesses need to consider as they transition to Web3 and 4?
A key technology would definitely be, for example, a distributed autonomous organization or a DAO, which is based on blockchain. But before I talk about the technologies, I think it's important also to understand, how do you assess the impact of Web3 and 4 on your business model? Because if you don't understand the impact, you can't really decide what technologies to be using. And we do something called a business X-ray, where we basically unpack your processes, and we can look at the business as a skeleton of processes, hence it's called a business X-ray, and see how each process interlinks with the other. But it also enables you to then look at, call it a graph or a matrix approach, use a matrix-based approach to assess which processes would be most ideal to bring technology into. And perhaps that's something to discuss a bit further on. So in terms of the technologies, then, yes, blockchain is going to be a critical technology because it is foundational for a distributed organization or distributed way of working. You don't need trust. You don't need this closed ecosystem to participate in the blockchain. By its very nature, it is set up that it is distributed. The information resides all over the world. And those that need to have ownership and have security, they have that irrespective of where the data is residing. So blockchain really is the foundational technology. And what Michélle also alluded to was that we are on Web3 now, really, which is a protocol level in terms of blockchain. So the concept and the basis, the foundation of blockchain's there, but it's not user-friendly yet. And that's why we will be transitioning into Web4, so that you have a use case. My use case is, I want seasonal workers in my business, and there's specific tasks I want them to accomplish. And you'll be able to buy a widget or a program or something along those lines that executes that function for you, where now you need to go and custom develop it. So technologies pretty much is going to be blockchain. Right now, there are interim things. This Zoom call that we're on is already an example of a distributed technology where we're sitting, all three of us, in different places in the world, but we are able to collaborate. So there are Web 2 technologies that already allow for decentralization. It'll just be taken to the next level as blockchain matures further. And to understand technology's impact in your business, you need to break down your business to its basic elements, the processes, and then do an analysis of where the impact is going to be. And then you can see who is going to be impacted and the extent of the impact. I'm sure Michélle would like to add some things to this.
Yes, thanks, Vincent. I think you've really captured the fact that looking into a Web3 space, it still needs to be practical. People need to understand what's happening, why is it happening, how is it impacting whom in the business. And through, let's call it a relate workshop, it's quite easy then to determine that. And in fact, I've just come off a call with a group that was building an application where you could take all the data that's currently in your business and load that into a self-owned or on-premise server, or you add it into the cloud. And then you can basically build a company Google. In other words, a Google that's related to all the data that's in your business. So why would I want to do that? Perhaps I have got large amounts of data and intellectual or company corporate knowledge that's lying around. And if I could put that into, and I'm really using it very loosely, my company Google, then I am beginning to build the beginning of my own chat GPT. So if my company's name is ABC, I could have Google ABC and then integrate that with other AI and that's available, and really then build up quite a significant tool within my business with which to shorten processes. And all of that then, through a good view of what's happening in your business, you could then immediately see which areas of your business are going to be able to do that and link that straight to what your strategy is. And let's say your strategy is to be quicker to market or faster delivery of a new product, then that becomes quite a significant tool.
How can businesses effectively manage customer data in a decentralized and permissionless environment like Web 3 and 4, as all of our businesses are working with a lot of customer data?
Data privacy is a key aspect of customer data. And if it wasn't a priority of your business, then there's laws that are coming about to make it a priority for your business through trying to deliver customer excellence or by force. Data privacy is a key component of dealing customers in the future business landscape. And I wouldn't say primary, but a major aspect of that data privacy is ensuring the security of customer information. You don't want that information to get into the wrong hands. And when we speak about this decentralized world that we're looking at, that seems to be a bit of a juxtaposition. You think that if the information is decentralized, how am I going to control it? How am I going to prevent a breach from happening? And that is a concern if you decentralize in the wrong way. So the important thing is to decentralize in the right way. So there is certain information that you may initially keep in an island, so to speak, keep it on premise, but eventually the best place to migrate that information to, as I have said previously, is blockchain. I seem to be hammering on this blockchain concept, but it really is the route to achieve an unprecedented level of security and control. So with blockchain, you can have a look. There's a lot of information on it. It uses 256-bit encryption. And with the current available technology, it is essentially unhackable. I'm not saying it won't be unhackable in the future, but by then we will have different encryption algorithms. For now, it is virtually impossible to hack something encrypted on a blockchain. So you've now taken care of security. So whatever data I put into the blockchain, my customer data is now secure. Then blockchain introduces the concept of keys. And I have also mentioned we're still in the protocol stage of blockchain, and we need to mature to an application stage, which will be Web 4. So on the protocol stage, what stage that we're in now, what I'm saying is not quite achievable yet, but it is something that we will see when we move to Web 4. And what I'm suggesting will happen is that I will have granular control over my data. So now, because I am company ABC's customer, I will then be asked by company ABC to give access to certain of my information. And I can then choose what information I want company ABC to have access to and who can use that from there. So ABC can use it and ABC can share it with company XYZ and so on and so forth. And if I want to revoke that access, then I can revoke that access. So suddenly customer data in a permissionless environment, when we incorporate blockchain and the use of private and public keys, the customer suddenly is now in control of their data. And that's where we want to move to. That's true data privacy. The customer can turn on and turn off who has access to their information.
What are, in your opinion, the cybersecurity challenges and considerations for businesses operating in the Web 3 and 4, to make it quite clear from the examples that you already mentioned?
The challenges that we would sit with if we have a Web 2 environment is my traditional Web 2 environment. All my information is going to sit in a central place. I cannot, as a company, possibly put the levels of security into place that a distributed entity or a distributed system would be able to offer me. Now, I often use this example with clients that are still deciding whether or not to stay on premise or go into the cloud. And my argument to them is, what security can Amazon Web Services or a Microsoft afford? And what security can you afford? You can maybe pay $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million or $4 or $5 million for your cybersecurity. But Microsoft can maybe do $1 billion on their cybersecurity. So moving to the cloud, there are other risks that it introduces. If you don't do your setup correctly, you can go and expose your data. But if you do it correctly and you apply the safeguards that are there, you have infinitely, or not infinitely, but exponentially better security in place. And the same then goes moving from Web 3 to Web 4. If you just look at the concept of the blockchain again, that data on a public blockchain sits on millions of computers. To be able to access and alter a single record, to be able to hack a company, requires simultaneous hacking of all those millions of computers. That's an almost unthinkable feat. So you want to start moving your information into a blockchain environment if you want to get to the Web 3, Web 4 world and have that level of security. The challenge that you'll face right now is that your systems are not built for that. So you need to look at your business processes, as we've already said, identify sort of a stepwise approach of which processes are going to have the lowest impact. So this is now looking at that matrix that I spoke of. And if we perhaps just describe this matrix, it'll have an X and a Y axis, a vertical and a horizontal axis. On the vertical axis at the bottom is going to be very few people impacted, and on the top, it'll be lots of people impacted. And on the horizontal axis, closest to the center, we'll have a very simple process. And on the far side, it's a very complex process. And so you will then assess every process on that matrix. And what you'd want to address first is the easy ones with low impact. So take an easy process. Perhaps it's just your employee leave application process. And let's see if we can move that to the blockchain. So it's confined to a select group of people. I have control over them and their actions. We move that process over to a Web 4 environment. And so you can then stepwise, systematically move your business across. The challenge is going to be when you start to get to those high impact, extensive processes affecting lots of people and even people outside of your business. And that will require that the rest of the world starts to mature towards Web 4. So challenges that we can expect is you need to move to a decentralized world to enhance your security. It sounds counterintuitive, but that needs to happen. The challenge is that you won't be able to do that in one step, and you require the rest of the world to move along with you. So you will need to look into your business to see what can we do inside and what do we need the world to help us with, in terms of the world needs to be on a similar maturity level to us.
You have been talking about employees before. So how can businesses effectively train and upskill their teams, their employees, to adapt to the demands of Web 3 and 4?
It's a conversation. It starts with a conversation, and that could be part of strategy sessions. It could be part of performance discussions. But as we've alluded before, the best way is actually just to bring it home to where people are familiar with their ecosystem and their environment. And by that, I mean, speak to the processes people are in. Say, what is the challenge in our process at the moment? And let's see how we could resolve those things. And through that conversation, discussion, input, and a discovery happens. And that discovery then leads to, okay, we can perhaps do this or we can do that. And that already ensures that there's buy-in for the change that needs to come. And then understanding what that change means. And again, if you link it to a specific strategic result that you're aiming to achieve, take that back to a process, break it down into a specific task or set of steps in a process, then it becomes quite easy to say, so what should I be doing in this step in order to support this process to deliver that result? And that's how we, in the many years that we've used process as a key element of change, succeeded to not only use the immense knowledge that employees already have, but also then to deploy that knowledge and I also want to say desire for them to improve what happens, use that to train them. And when you're actually looking at upskilling and training, these specific things that you could allocate to people. So that gap that's between what am I doing currently, and now that we've decided what is the future aspect that we need to be able to deliver on, what is the gap? What must I learn? What is it, the training that I needed? The question on how do you effectively train and upskill employees, it really starts with people understanding, why do I need to do this? And being clear about the change it will bring about, so that eagerness to fall into this training and upskilling or reskilling is there. And so that really, the little word effective is a tricky one. But basically, any change brings about doubt, sometimes fear, lots of uncertainty. You need to go through the curve of change to effectively then land training and upskill employees.
I like to close this podcast or each episode with a short, tricky one. How would you, from your experience, describe digital transformation in 3 words as a really short elevator pitch to the ones interested in the topic?
I'll go first, and pretty much with what I started out is digital transformation is making change stick.
I'd say it is efficiency through automation.
Thank you so much to both of you, Michélle and Vincent. It has been a pleasure to have this interesting conversation with you today.